Modern Peruvian food is a celebration of the biodiversity that is Peru. Restaurants like Central and Satera celebrate both the biodiversity of Peru and also the local ingredients from the different regions, mixing it with the fusion of molecular gastronomy and cordon bleu. And they're meeting cordon bleu schools in Peru as well. I actually really love the bread at Statera. It's made from freeze-dried potatoes, which is, I think, a good way to eat those potatoes, and ground down into a flour. And then he makes this black butter from moaje fruit, and it's something, he's a magician. There's something magical about it. And he's also a very nice person to talk to. There was a little confusion sometimes in one of the tubers, which is called an oca, which is also the word for goose. At one point I thought I was going to be eating goose, but it wasn't. It was a tuber. Another place that is really taking the cuisine of Peru to the edge is a restaurant called Merito, and they are also Venezuelan. They're Venezuelan chefs who used to work at Central, just like the chef at Statera used to work in Central. And now they all have their own places and they're celebrating Peruvian food, but adding their own twist to it. There is, of course, the very old traditional food of Peru, including earth oven food from Pachacamac, I think it's called, and Pachamama is the word for Mother Earth, and that is it's a lot like the Hawaiian earth oven, and that you can have at traditional restaurants outside of Lima. But again, most of Peruvian food these days seems to be there seem to be two tracks, both the things that are very modern, very fancy, a lot of foam, a lot of unknown ingredients being turned into things you recognize, and then very traditional home-style food that's not fancy, or fancy, the fancy version of home-style food. But I'll be covering home cooking in another segment. The immigrants of Peru have, of course, influenced the cuisine immensely. The Chinese, the Spanish, the Italians, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Lebanese, the Venezuelans, and now there are more modern immigrants bringing in other kinds of foods, including Thai food, Vietnamese food, Indian food. There are just so many different kinds. I would say that I could not find Lao food, and that's also a food that is fairly hard, a cuisine that's fairly hard to find anywhere outside of Laos. So it doesn't surprise me that you can't really find it in Lima yet, but I'm sure it will arrive at some point. Another wonderful thing about Lima is, of course, there are many food fairs. There are actually food fairs all over the country, but Lima has many, many down on the Costa Verde, and there will be a Japanese food fair, there will be a local regional food fair, there'll be international food fairs, many different kinds of food fairs. And I think I mentioned before that Peruvians always know how to dress their food. Very, very well dressed food. They have an eye for making it look attractive. And even if you're eating homemade food, it will be attractive, which is rather impressive to me. There is, of course, the influence of the American culture to the north, or United States culture, but the gringo culture. And when I arrived in Peru, couldn't really get a taco anywhere. And now every place has tacos. Everybody makes tacos of some sort. And even the Japanese food has fused into taco versions. Another thing that I wrote about on my blog, which is that there is the rise of artisanal bread. As in many parts of the world, people are going back to masa madre, which is a great name for sourdough, a naturally occurring yeast that they form, and you have to grow it. It can take 8 days to make your own homemade sourdough, and it's a relationship that you have to build. But I would say that one thing that is really wonderful is that with all the local celebration of local ingredients, of course that includes chocolate and cacao. And one of the most single best and most delicious and life-changing bites of food that you will have in Peru is actually Scrappin' Chocolate's passion fruit truffle. And I would always greet my guests at the airport with that in hand for them to try.